Tony wasn't supposed to be home that night. He had planned to stay late at work, finish a project, send a few emails, come back quietly like he always did. But something felt off. A strange instinct, the kind you can't explain, the kind that pulls you back home. When he opened the door, the apartment was dark, too quiet. No music, no television, just silence. But then he heard it, a sound, soft at first, then clearer. Laughter, not just any laughter, her laughter. His hand froze on the handle, his breath slowed, and in that moment, something inside him already knew. And then he saw it. The woman he planned to marry, the woman he trusted with his future, in another man's arms. Time didn't move, the world didn't spin. Everything just stopped. 5 years of memories flashed in silence. Every laugh, every promise, every I love you. And in that moment, without a single word, it all collapsed into nothing. He didn't move. He didn't speak. Because sometimes your body understands pain before your mind does. His heart was racing, but everything else felt slow. Too slow. He noticed things he shouldn't have noticed. The way her hand rested on the man's shoulder, the way she laughed freely, like she wasn't afraid of being caught. And that hurt more than anything. Not the betrayal, but the comfort. Tony was not the kind of man people noticed immediately. He wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. He didn't walk into a room expecting attention. But he was steady, reliable, the kind of man who built things that lasted, an engineer, a problem solver, a man who believed that if something was broken, you fix it. That's how he saw life. And then he met Linda. Linda was different. She walked into a room and people noticed. Her smile could light up conversations. Her confidence made her unforgettable. To Tony, she was everything he wasn't, and everything he thought he needed. Their love didn't start dramatically. It grew slowly, naturally, like something safe. They cooked together in small kitchen, bond meals, laughed about it. They argued about movies, talked about dreams, planned a future that felt real. Tony worked long hours, but every time he came home, Linda was there, waiting, smiling, or at least that's what he believed. But love has a way of hiding the truth. There were signs, small ones, easy to ignore. Late replies to messages, sudden mood changes, Conversations that ended too quickly. Tony noticed them. Of course he did. But he explained them away. Work stress, fatigue, life. Because when you love someone, you don't look for reasons to doubt them. You look for reasons to trust them. Even when your instincts are trying to protect you. So he kept building, kept believing, kept loving her. The only way he knew how. He saved quietly, planned carefully, and one day he bought a ring. Not the most expensive, but meaningful. Chosen with intention. Chosen with love. He imagined the proposal, the moment, her reaction, their future. He didn't know that while he was planning forever, Linda was already questioning it. Because for Linda, love wasn't enough. It needed comfort, luxury, status, and slowly, without Tony realizing, she started looking elsewhere. The first time it happened, it didn't feel like betrayal. Not to her. It was just a mistake. That's what she said. That's what she repeated over and over again. I was lonely. You were always walking. I didn't mean for it to happen. Tony stood there, listening, holding flowers in his hand, her favorite lilies. He had come home early that day, excited, ready to surprise her. But instead, he surprised himself. The scene replayed in his mind again and again and again. But what hurt him most wasn't just what he saw. It was how quickly she explained it away, like it meant nothing, like he meant nothing. And yet, he forgave her. Not because it didn't hurt, but because he believed in what they had. Because he believed love was worth saving. Because he believed she would change. That was his first mistake. That night, after he forgave her, Tony couldn't sleep. He lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breath, wondering if this was what love was supposed to feel like. Uncertain, heavy, quietly painful. But in the morning, he smiled because he made a decision to fight for them, even if she wasn't fighting the same way. For the next 6 months, Tony tried to rebuild something that was already cracked. He adjusted his life, worked less, came home earlier, paid more attention. He planned date nights, bought gifts, tried to remind her of what they used to be. But something had changed, something invisible, but permanent. Linda smiled less. Her laughter felt forced. Her eyes were somewhere else. She became distant, detached, present, but not really there. Her phone became her secret world, always closed, always locked, always faced down. And Tony noticed. Of course he noticed. But he didn't ask, because part of him was afraid of the answer. And the other part still wanted to believe that love could fix this. Some nights, Tony would sit in the living room alone, waiting for her to come back from outings. He would check the time, then check again, then pretend it didn't matter. Because asking questions meant admitting something was wrong, and he wasn't ready for that. So he stayed quiet. And silence slowly replaced love. At exactly 11:47 p.m., Tony's phone lit up. The room was dark, quiet, still. A message from the only friend he still trusted, Derek. No words, just a photo. Tony stared at the screen. For a moment, he didn't open it because deep down, he already knew. His fingers hovered over the screen for a long time, too long, because once he opened that photo, there was no going back. No more denial, no more excuses, just truth. And truth doesn't ask for permission, it just arrives and destroys everything that was built on lies. Then slowly, he tapped, and everything changed. Linda, wearing a red dress, elegant, beautiful, familiar, but the way she looked at him was something Tony had never seen before. Her hand rested on his chest. Her body leaned closer. Her lips met his. And this time, she wasn't crying. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't confused. She was smiling. Morning came as if nothing had happened. The same kitchen, the same silence, but something had changed. Linda walked in, holding 2 cups of coffee, like she always did, like they were still normal. Tony didn't look angry. He didn't look hot. He looked empty. Without a word, he slid his phone across the table and waited. Linda's smile faded. Her hands trembled. The color drained from her face. Tony, it's not what you think. Stop. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be, because the truth was already screaming. Don't lie to me again. Not this time. He's just a friend. I was confused. I didn't mean... Tony let out a quiet laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it finally made sense. You weren't confused, Linda. You were choosing, and you chose someone else. Linda reached for him, desperate now. Afraid, maybe, but Tony pulled his hand away. Tears came, apologies followed, promises. That meant nothing anymore. Tony stood up slowly. No anger, no shouting, just clarity. You were never mine. I was just convenient. Linda kept talking, words spilling over each other. Apologies, explanations, excuses. But Tony stopped listening because he had heard enough to understand everything. Not just what she did, but who she had become. Or maybe who she had always been. And for the first time, he chose himself. He didn't slam the door. He didn't look back. No second chances. No goodbye. Linda thought she had won. The cars were faster. The house was bigger. The lifestyle louder. Everything Tony couldn't give her. Everything she thought she deserved. For a moment, it felt like a dream. Like she had finally arrived. But dreams don't last long in the wrong hands. Victor didn't love her. He barely noticed her. To him, she wasn't special. She was temporal. She tried to impress him, tried to matter, tried to hold on to something that was never hers. The silence in that mansion was louder than any argument. No warmth, no laughter, just luxury without meaning. And slowly, Linda began to understand something. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot replace respect. It cannot replace peace, and definitely it cannot replace a man who truly loved you. And then one night, reality walked in. Another woman, younger, louder, replaceable, just like her. Who is she? Victor didn't answer. His silence said everything. I told you to leave before I returned from work. You don't live here. Get out. No argument, no explanation, just rejection. The same woman who chased luxury was now being dragged out of it. The heels, the makeup, the illusion, all gone. In one night, Linda lost everything again. And for the first time in 2 months, she remembered the man who never treated her like this, Tony. The man she called not enough. The man who was everything she needed. And in her desperation, she went back to the only man who never humiliated her, Tony. She knocked once, twice, then again and again, until finally the door opened. But it wasn't him. A stranger stood there, confused. Tony? The man shook his head. He moved out, and just like that, he was gone. She stood there in the rain, not because she had nowhere to go, but because she didn't know where she belonged anymore. The city moved on around her. Cars passed, lights flickered, people walked by without noticing, and for the first time, she felt it. Not regret, not yet, but something deeper. Loss. Real loss. The kind that doesn't come back. The kind that doesn't give second chances. The kind that stays long after everything else is gone. Sometimes the end is not loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't fight. Sometimes the end is quiet, final, and sometimes that ending is the beginning of a life you never saw coming.